I'm going to be completely honest in this. You guys can dog me for that thumbnail and the title. Those are probably the hardest things I had to do for this fucking video. So I actually want to animate my intro, but I can't draw well yet. So this is a placeholder. Christmas, everybody. Don't question that the video is probably being released like in early December. But Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night or day, because it's daytime. My name is Mex, and I talk about media that I really like and enjoy and just want to yap about. Today, we're talking about The Nightmare Before Kissmas, a Christmas book about the Prince of Christmas having an arranged marriage with the Princess of Easter, while also developing feelings for the Prince of Halloween, who is competing for the hand of Princess of Easter. Yeah, based on that description alone, this is going to be a little toughie. I got my laptop here because I have a lot of notes about this book. So you're going to see some glare from my glasses, and you're just going to have to accept that because I don't know how to edit that out yet. Anyway, let's get into this book. We start the book off with our main character, the Prince of Christmas, drunk as a skunk. This man is pissed drunk. Drunk as a motherfucker, I hate to tell you. Now, he's wallowing in his own self-pity because he did something that affected his girlfriend, now ex-girlfriend, because, well, she knows her worth. Anyway, he does something so bad that it fucks up their relationship, and because it fucked up their relationship, she broke it off. And honestly, good for her. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, what did Cole do? That's his name, by the way. His actual name is Nicholas, but he calls himself Cole because he's become dissuaded with Christmas. I think you know what type of book we're in for now. Anyway, his brother comes in. His name is Chris. And just so you know, his name is spelled K-R-I-S. Like Kris Kringle. Again, we're already in for the ride, folks, so we might as well keep it going. Now, he approaches his brother and he's pissed off because he fucked up real bad. Now, in the author's words, she actively describes the character Cole as being a bi-disaster. Which all I'm saying is, I hate when authors do that where it's just like, I'm just a bi-disaster. Leave that shit for the fandoms. You as an author should not be saying that shit. Cut it. Cut it out of that. Cut it out. No. Don't. Stop trying to be cool. Leave that for the fanfic writers. Don't be doing that for an official published work. That's cringy. Unless you're critiquing like fandom or something, or it's supposed to be some big content. But I'm sorry, like I don't fuck with that at all. Every time I see that, I just say to myself, I just cringe internally. But anyway, he fucked up real bad. Now Iris, Lily's sister, she comes in because she's pissed off too because he fucked up her birthday party, her sister's birthday party. Yeah, it happened on her birthday. Anyway, so Iris comes in. She's black, by the way. I was very shocked by that. When I read the description saying that she had like box braids, I was like, box braids? That's crazy. I didn't know she had that. But regardless of that, you're probably thinking to yourself, what did Cole do that he fucked up so badly? Well, here's what he did. Now for some context. Again, because he is the Prince of Christmas, he has the ability to grant people's wishes via the letters. So he was looking through the database and seeing all these letters that these kids were giving out. And some of them were really sad, talking about how their dad left them and he doesn't think that he's coming back, how his mother is having struggles because of medical issues, how they don't have enough money for the rent, how if they could, instead of getting a gift for themselves, get a gift for their mother, like money or something. So he read all these, he got so distraught and tired that he went into the database, and there's like this whole database that documents like, you know, what kids are good, what kids are bad, what routes to take to make it most quick and efficient, all that stuff. He goes in there, he picks a small Pacific island called Nukoa. And I looked it up, and I think it is a real place, but it's like, it's very, I don't know if it's like a city, because based on what the map said, it looks like it's a city and not like just an island by itself. But who knows, maybe it was made up for the world and it has like some real world equivalent, but it's like completely different. But anyway, he hacks into the database and basically he grants all these wishes for these kids. Now, I want to also add in that he's in Yale. He is attending Yale. But honestly, after this situation, I can see that he's not attending Yale because of grades. Because, you see, when you grant wishes, more specifically, granting a wish to a small country, a very small island, with a very small population, and a vast majority of those gifts involve money, you are going to cause an economic collapse. He caused an economic collapse. He hacked into the system, sent a bunch of money to people. When I tell you, while physical gifts were sent, and keep in mind, these gifts had the word Santa on it, like from Santa. And keep in mind that this is in June. So, yeah, not a great situation. Anyway, this whole situation causes a bunch of robberies, riots, looting. It gets fucking crazy because, again, he caused an economic collapse. You can't buy disaster your way out of this one, buddy. This has serious consequences, very serious consequences. And turns out when the news broke about what happened in Nucoa, it was at the exact same time as his girlfriend's, or should I say ex-girlfriend's, birthday. So yeah, not exactly a great situation at all, in the slightest. So it's bad. It's really bad. And on the one hand, I want to feel bad for him because, you know, his dad, Santa, hits him up and it's like, hey, you fucked up. You fucked up real bad. I don't know how we're going to fix this. And I'm not going to lie, when I bought this book, I thought to myself, oh, okay. I assumed that, like, normal people knew that the holidays existed, right? Like, I assumed that they knew that the holidays existed, or, like, these people who represent the holidays existed. And they do not. They do not. I know that it's, like, very easy for writers to, like, do that because you could just be like, oh, memory erasure. Oh, we could do this. Magic. But I feel like it would have been so interesting and also add more consequences if instead the character, if, like, you know, normal people also knew that Santa existed, because, you know, it would add some, like, interesting dynamics into it as well, because do, like, different generations have, like, a different favorite Santa because they, like, change out every so often, like, every, what, first generation or something, but they change out every generation? Like, okay, which generation has their favorite Santa Claus? Or do they have, like, holiday watch parties because, you know, the sleigh is, like, going across and, like, you know, people are having fun and looking at Santa? Does Santa do mall meetups, and then there's, like, controversy online because he only likes to go to the major cities and not to, like, bumfuck Texas? Like, you know, interesting stuff like that. Because that would even add even more consequences to the Nucoa thing. Because, again, the holidays are seeing the Nucoa thing, and they're like, oh yeah, that's Santa's son. Santa's son fucked up. We gotta go report on that. But to the normal people in the human world, it's like, oh, it must have been some sort of, like, tech glitch or hackers. I feel like that would have added even more consequences and even more guilt to him about, like, what he's done. But, you know, can't have it be that fucking simple. Anyway, the paparazzi comes in and he wants to get away. So he goes in through a back door and goes into the alley. Now, while he's in this alley, this random guy comes in with, like, you know, long black hair, you know, pale skin, you know, white people's wet dream. He comes in and he's all like, you know, he assumes that he's, like, some sort of, like, employee. And, you know, he just starts, like, ranting and raving about how he thinks that he's, like, this awful person, how he's not good enough, how he doesn't do enough, all of this shit. And I honestly kind of agree with him. But, you know, I can't say that right now because that makes me seem very mean. But, hey. Anyway, he starts talking about Christmas because, again, like I say, he calls himself cold because, again, he's become dissuaded with Christmas. He feels like it's become too commodified and corporate. And so he's like, oh, well, we could be doing so much more. We could help people instead of just doing one day of, like, smiles and happiness. We could actively help these people. Anyway, that little employee, he's all like, I understand where you're coming from, but you have to understand that at the end of the day, happiness is the foundation. You need more than just this and that to get you through it. And he's like, damn, that's actually kind of true. Anyway, they start kissing. When I tell you, I was shocked. I remember reading this because I had to go to work for an employee meeting. It was my day off and I had to walk to work for my employee meeting, which, subscribe to my channel so that I can get a car. I'm just joking, but like, yeah, I had to walk to work, and so I ended up getting there like an hour early. So I was just like reading this book so I could like, you know, finish it up early. And as I'm reading it, I'm like, are they kissing like now? This was in like 18 pages into the book they started kissing, and I'm like, y'all had one philosophical conversation and we're already starting to fuck. I mean, they weren't fucking, they were just like making out very steamily, but you know, that's a lot. But anyway, after they do like their little makeout session, you know, his friend Iris comes in and she's like, hey, are you okay? You've been out here for a really long time. And he's just like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just making out with this one guy. And she's just like, what guy? And he's like, where is this nigga? I mean, he didn't say nigga because he's white, but where is this nigga? And, you know, he's very confused. Anyway, don't mind my afro, okay? It's that fucking hat. And before any of you guys ask, yes, it was the Wicked hat, okay? It was the only witch's hat that didn't look fucking tacky as hell. But it was also made for children. I bought the one that was made for children by accident. And we're just gonna have to accept my mistake and move on. Anyway, after that happened, we skip over 2 years into the future. Well, a half a year into the future, I should say. You know, it was a little later into the future. But anyway, in the future, he's now in his senior year of college. Well, I guess university, because he's going to Yale. He's in his senior year of it. And might I just say that he's kind of a dick. I don't know. Something that kind of pisses me off is that these like kids are like royalty, but like they don't really like act, I don't know, like they try to act like they're normal fucking people, and it's like, listen, I don't like it when they try to make their characters like rich but like want to make them relatable to the audience. Like, no, you're rich, use your money. Because why is this motherfucker the prince of Christmas like sharing an apartment with like 4 other people? I mean 3 other people. You couldn't ask daddy for money? Keep in mind that they have transportation, right? Like, he has magic. He can literally make a portal with a piece of mistletoe and just go to wherever he wants. So this man could literally be in the Arctic tundra, in his castle, in his cushy ass room with like a 4-corner bed, and like sleep there and then just make a portal and go to his morning class. But he chooses to be in a fucking greasy ass apartment sharing it with 3 other niggas. Crazy ass fucking shit to me. Iris, the princess of Easter, works a fucking fast food job. That's fucking insane. Girl, you have money. I get it. You're upset that you couldn't go to art school, but like, you know, let's not do anything crazy now. As someone who works at a McDonald's, let's not do something insane. And Chris goes to like Cambridge. Both him and Iris go to Cambridge. But, you know, he's in Yale. And again, like I said, he did not get into Yale from grades alone. Anyway, we do learn a little bit about his mother. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm pissed about his mother because I cannot properly vilify this woman because, again, I don't know enough about this woman. Like, at all. I don't know anything about this woman because they try to paint her as this villain. But then they also add tidbits of information, which kind of makes you think, okay, her decision was like rather morally gray, wasn't it? But it's like, no, they're trying to like paint her as just being a villain. And I feel like it's a very single-minded way of looking at it. Because in this chapter, he talks about his mom. He talks about how he was like scrolling through Instagram and how a lot of his roommates are in the Caribbean because, of course, rich white people want to come to the fucking Caribbean. As someone from the Caribbean, I know you bitches do that. Okay? Don't think I've noticed the influx of whites now that it's Christmas time. But that's just me. But yeah, his mother is in the Caribbean. She takes a photo of herself in a bikini at the beach with like, she's not smiling or anything. He describes it as like those influencer pictures, which is like, okay, I don't really know what the fuck that means, because some influencers do smile for their photos. But hey, maybe I just I'm not really into influencers like that, so maybe I just don't really understand that. But he talks about how his mother does like Instagram, and it's like he says it in a way where it's like, oh, she sent that to him, but it's like, no, you just said so yourself. You're scrolling on Instagram. Like, yeah, she posted that photo, and yeah, you two follow her, but you can't be shocked that she doesn't post content that's like, oh yeah, I'm always gonna post something that's gonna make my kids comfortable. And like, not to be that person, but like, is seeing your mom in a bikini that fucking bad? My mom goes to the beach in a bikini all the time. I don't fucking care. Good for her. I'm glad that she feels confident in her body to wear a bikini. I do not. I'm glad for her, honestly. Let her rock that bikini. Especially if she has the body for it. Because how he explains it, she has like the influencer body. So she can have every right to wear a bikini. But he's getting all upset about it. His brother comes in, scares the ever-loving shit out of him. And so he asks his brother, he's like, have you talked to mom recently? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, oh, he's so pissed off at his brother for having a relationship with his mother. He's so pissed off at his brother for having a relationship with his mother. Like, it's crazy. Like, genuinely. Again, because he talks in the previous chapter when he was drunk and his father was like really digging into him. And he was like, oh, well, that's why mom left. And he's like, okay, you didn't need to do that now. You caused the economic collapse of a whole ass country. But he's like, we'll talk about this later, which kind of shows that there's like a sore spot. But at the same time, he also talks about how his mom divorced his dad. So it's like, did she leave and then divorce him, or did she divorce him and then leave? I can't figure out the two, because again, they add in like little tidbits that make it seem like his mother's decision to leave was a very morally gray one. Because again, the way they categorize Santa in this, I wouldn't be surprised that he's a wife beater. I mean, we learn later on that he's not, supposedly. But, you know, I'm just saying, the way they characterize Santa, it's like, he's a bit of a control freak. Like a very serious control freak. So it's like, I wouldn't be too shocked that he becomes... Again, they also mention later on, but I'm not going to get into it now. But he's talking about his mom, and he specifically states, let me try and see if I can find the page in my notes. I know that I have it here. I should have put it in italics. I'm so sorry. Okay, I found it. Now, his mother sent like a text, and it kind of shows that she might be a little narcissistic. In the text, she says, your brother finally came to see me. Why haven't you, Christopher? And Nicholas, you only stayed a week. Now, on the one hand, that does seem a bit narcissistic, because she does add in as a final tidbit, children who love their mothers would visit much longer. And on the one hand, I have to say, okay, that's a little narcissistic. But on the other hand, I think she has a bit of a point, because yeah, you only visit your mother for a week. And when you know that your sons literally have a magical ability to transport themselves anywhere in the world in a matter of seconds, I too would be a little peeved off that my kids don't visit me more. Like, it's a different story if you live in another country and like your son lives in another country and like, you know, airfare is expensive. But if you know that your kid can fucking teleport anywhere in the world, it's like, okay, why the fuck haven't you visit me? At least come by every weekend, if not once a month. Like, what the fuck? I can't blame her for acting like that in a sense, because yeah. Anyway, he talks about how his mother had this whole guilt trip rant that he went in on his like brother Chris for. And it's like, we don't get an explanation about what this rant was specifically. He just says that it was a rant and it was so bad that his brother stopped eating for 2 days. And they say women are emotional. I'm sorry to be that person, but what the fuck could this bitch have possibly said on your cell phone that you can block her on, that you couldn't eat for 2 whole days? I'm trying to figure it out, because I don't know. I don't know what the fuck this bitch could say, because we don't get any idea as to what she fucking said. We just gotta take their word for it that it was just absolutely horrifically awful. But we're gonna get off of my whole his mother thing until the later chapter where he talks more about his mother leaving. Again, I don't know. But We go over to the Arctic tundra, to North Pole City. You know? And this is where my next complaint of the book comes in. Because, in a sense, this book has such a whimsical topic, like a whimsical concept. But the author almost seems to like want to get rid of any whimsy that this topic could possibly bring. For one instance, the character designs. The character designs, they just look like normal ass niggas. This is Chris because there's a second book that's coming out in March. You know, if I get 20 likes on this video, I'll read the book and we'll, you know, talk about it again. And this is also Cole. And I'm not gonna lie, the author kind of did him dirty. He looks like a fuckboy. But they look like average ass niggas. They look like regular ass niggas. I'm not even gonna lie to you. They just look like basic ass bitches. Like, I'm sorry, but again, something that I want to add in, I'm gonna move the hat. Something that I want to add in when it comes to this movie, when it comes to this book, is that the character designs kind of feel like they're lacking, because we don't get any like idea that these people, besides the magic that they can use, it doesn't really seem like they're that different from normal people, like at all. They don't have an extended lifespan, because we find out later that a character dies from a car crash. So like they don't have some sort of like endurability or any sort of like extended life force or anything like that. And you know, it's very questionable, because we later learn that there are like different houses for like, you know, Christmas. You know, you have the Luminaires that deal with the lights, the Jacobs that deal with the toys. We have Frost, which is where Cole's mother comes from, that deal with like snow and stuff. I think there's about 5 houses in total. And with that in mind, why exactly don't Chris and Cole have more features that would indicate this? Because again, a lot of these holidays are sometimes based off of mythological creatures. So it's like, if these are based off of like mythological creatures, why, oh why, do these characters look so bland and so basic? Like, you could make them albinos. That's a step in the right direction. Make Cole and Chris albinos, because again, Santa is technically an albino. Like, sure, he's an older guy, but he could also be considered an albino. His mother is from a literal house that is supposed to like make ice and frost and snow. Have them have some sort of like, I mean, they do have blue eyes, so I guess that's one thing that they have, or some sort of like icicles, or like maybe little snowflakes across their face that makes it look like they have dimples, elf ears, something that makes them stand out from a regular ass person, like something that makes them look unique. But no, I can say the same for the Princess of Easter, because again, she has purple hair, sure, but what else? She's basically the personification of the Easter Bunny. I know that the West isn't ready for bunny girls yet, but like, I feel like we could have some fun. Like, bunny ears. She could have like those big eyes that like rabbits have, like those very big black eyes. Or she could have like a little cottontail that she's like likes to hide, or something like that. But no, she's just like a really, it's very basic, you know? Or at the very least, something that shows that she's supposed to represent the springtime. Like, maybe she has like flowers growing out from her. Like, you know, take a page out of the Folk of the Air series, you know? Holly Black put her ass in that. But that's all that needs to be said. Another thing is that she kind of tries to take out any sort of like magical concept as well, because when they enter the castle, they see their friend, well, more so their father's assistant Ren there to get them ready for the party that's happening, which is going to start the cataclysm of like this entire book. He talks about, and I'm so dead ass serious about this, so dead ass serious. He says, and I quote, on page 34, "People bustle all around, staff rushing this or that, preparation, not else, much to the chagrin of the common myth." Why would you take something so prolific from the story of Santa Claus and just erase it? Let's pretend that this isn't the following day and I called out of work just to do this video. Okay, so getting back to what I was talking about when it came to like taking out the whimsy out of like the stories that she's using, or like the mythology, it's like, it's weird that you would like take the most iconic thing. Like, there's a lot of iconic things about, like, you know, Santa Claus and like Christmas, but why would you take out the fact that the people that live in North Pole City aren't elves? They're just like normal people. Like, I'll show the quote, but like, they're normal people, not elves, just regular ass people. Why are we trying to like corporatize fucking Santa Claus? Like, I don't understand it. Like, on the one hand, I get it, she wants to make like this allegory for Christmas, but it's like, you could do the allegory, you could do like the capitalism allegory without like getting rid of like some of the whimsy and fun. Like, you can still do that. I'm just saying. But back to where we were getting at. So we're at the party. It's called the tree trimming. And at the tree trimming, they basically decorate this tree with all the people from all the houses and a bunch of other holidays. Easter, more specifically, because, you know, Cole was friends with the Princess of Easter. So they get along pretty well, decently enough. Now, during this whole tree trimming thing, we see Santa Claus, you know, the beard, the white hair, all that stuff, in a dark red suit. And I'm pretty sure it's a nice looking suit. He goes over, he talks about how, you know, Cole is going to be going to grad school for global affairs, just like he did. And Cole's like, I ain't never said any of that. I don't have the grades to get into grad school, which really makes me wonder, how bad are these man's grades? Like, dude, I understand, like, okay, you don't really like the major that your parents picked for you, but are you really want to try and flunk out of Yale? Like, I'm surprised that he was able to stay in Yale for the 4 years. I won't even lie to you. I feel like at some point they have to let you go, right? But then again, daddy's money. But that's just me. That's just me. But his dad is like, yeah. So basically you see his father forcing him to go into a career path that he doesn't really want to go to, which is unfortunate. Happens a lot. But yeah, I can see that really wasn't helping him out a lot. Anyway, he talks to Iris for a bit, and, you know, he talks about, like, isn't it sad that we don't get to do our dreams, like, do what we want to do? And it's like, yeah, that is really sad. But, you know, Iris kind of has a bit more of, like, a diplomatic way of looking at things. Like, well, you know, our holidays are supposed to bring joy. Is it really that bad that, gasp, our responsibilities are, like, that bad? Like, we're just bringing joy to people. And he says, and I quote, in page 42, no, we create a single day of one-off smiles that does nothing to stop bad shit from happening. And I think another issue I have is how these characters have a tendency to just prescribe to their faith. Like, they never try to, like, really fight it or get out of it or try and talk it out. Like, no, they just kind of, like, go, oh, well, I guess there's nothing else I can do. Like, well, damn, nigga, let's get off our fucking ass and do something. Talk to your family. Come on now. I feel like we can do a little something here. But during this tree trimming, we find out, because of an announcement, you know, Santa Claus, he goes up there and he's just like, we have an amazing announcement that Cole is now courting Iris. And Iris and Cole are like, what? And it's like, they're just very, like, in shock about it, because of course they never arranged for this. So they go into, like, a separate room, they talk to their parents about it. They're just like, well, hey, you don't have any right to just, like, force us to marry each other. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And, like, I gotta agree with that, because, well, for one thing, why exactly is an Easter holiday, like a spring holiday, trying to marry into Easter, trying to marry into Christmas? And it's because of, like, joy and how they want to, like, bring up the joy levels in Easter by joining Christmas so that they can also, like, kind of siphon some of their joy if they got married. And another thing that kind of pisses me off is that, like, there is a brother who has a crush on Iris. And, like, throughout the book, you kind of see that Iris may reciprocate these feelings, but we're going to get into that later because it kind of pisses me off later on in the book. But, like, his brother, Chris, has a crush on Iris. So y'all could have still made this wedding thing happen. You just had to pick the other brother. Like, why not pick the brother who actually has a crush on her? Like, I'm surprised that he didn't go to his dad and, like, hey, Dad, I don't know if you know this, but, like, Chris has been eyeing Iris since we were, like, children. And then his dad could just be like, oh, that would make it much easier. Hell, why didn't I think of that? I should have asked him beforehand. But, you know, that's what I've noticed about Santa in this, is that he's like a complete control freak. Like, he wants everything in, like, these very neat, tidy boxes. Like, basically he's really in for commodifying Christmas because it brings more joy. But we'll figure out that the reason he has so much more joy in comparison to other Santas is definitely questionable. Now, in the next part, and I want to talk a little bit more about this, they're getting married on Christmas Eve, might I add. Keep in mind that this book is taking place on the 1st of December. Like, this is the first week of December, which means these kids got, like, less than 2 weeks to, like, get ready to be wed. Which is kind of crazy, I won't even lie. Now, another thing I want to talk about this book is what I like to call the millennial writing style hallmark. Because it's something, it's hard to explain. And I put on a little synopsis here. It's basically when the author contains a lot of pop culture references throughout the story that don't really give anything to the story, and it just kind of feels like it's ticking a box off to try and feel more relevant, cool, or topical. Like, for example, mentioning Harry Potter houses, older films, the bi disaster thing, which I feel like a lot of millennial writers do whenever they describe certain characters, which is, again, I feel like that thing should just, like, stay in fandom culture. And if they want to use that, maybe use it for a TV show that's, like, about fandom or is very heavily influenced by fandom. I don't really understand doing that in these types of situations, but hey, that's just me. And then also, it does tend to make it a little cringy, especially depending on where they're placed. Because, again, later on in the, like, I think around chapter 3, there's another part where she mentions this. I put the exact page. Such as page 48, where Cole is talking about his relationship with Iris, and he talks about how they became such good friends at her mother's funeral because, again, like I said previously, they do have this whole thing going on about, like, how is it being a part of the public eye, and how exactly do people navigate being in the public eye as children. And while we see how that works, because Iris's mother dies, and I want to get more into this because Iris's mother was a regular person. She was not a part of a holiday house. She wasn't from a different holiday. She was a normal ass person that her father met in France while he was doing some Easter duties. And she got married to him. And it caused a big uproar in the Easter world because it was like, oh, they married a normal human. We're never gonna, like, advance. We're not gonna have enough joy. This is bad. And I did put in that section where he did mention that Iris' mom was a human, how there is no way in hell that marrying within the holidays isn't going to cause some sort of incest problem, because I feel like that's gonna cause an incest problem. But at the same time, why are y'all so mad that a human married, like, your king? Like, not to be that person, but, and I've noticed this a lot in, like, media. Why is it that when there is, like, a story where there is a race of people who might be a little more advanced than humans or are in around a better circumstance than humanity, but at the same time, the only reason that their society is at that level is because they are siphoning something else from humanity, whether it be their joy, their energy, or something else that humans give them that is literally benefiting their society as a large. They, like, fucking hate humans. I don't fucking understand it whatsoever. Like, a good example is Star Darlings. Like, there is a whole ass character who hates humans, who thinks they're disgusting and nasty, as if that whole planet isn't powered by granting human wishes. Humans can survive just fine without the wishes. I don't know about the fucking starlings. They'll die within an instant. But that's just me personally. Like, it makes no sense to have that hate for humans. But they're like, oh, it's gonna make us weak. It's gonna make us a weaker kingdom. And it's like, you're Easter. Like, I mean, I guess this is, like, the non-religious celebration of Easter, but, like, still, Easter's a pretty big fucking holiday. Not even in just, like, America, like, in other Western countries. So, I don't really understand why there's such this, like, big thing going on. But, again, that's just me. But he adds in, another thing that bonded us over the years, the absolute bi-confusion induced by movies like Pirates of the Caribbean or The Mummy. Chris got into the confusion too, but the only thing stopping me from calling us in sync, bye, was him cringing at any kind of label. All I'm gonna say is that in sync thing pissed me right the fuck off. Like, when I realized what she was trying to do with that, I was like, Sarah, she was assing me up with that line. I was so mad. I had to like take a break. When I saw her say that, I was like, I had to take a good 20-minute rest. A 20-minute rest. I really could not do it. It was absolutely insane. But anyway, Iris kind of accepts her fate when it comes to this, because I guess the Easter Kingdom has always questioned her father's power of authority, again because of like marrying her mother. And you know how she says it, because again Cole is like bringing up the idea of like, you know, just breaking off the engagement, like just announcing like, hey, we don't want to get married, so we're not going to get married. And she's just like, no, because then it's going to prove even more that like my father isn't like good enough. And they've already been getting on his ass about it and like getting upset about it. And you know, Cole brings up a good question, and he's like, if we, you know, break off this engagement, do you think that they're going to start like a coup? Are they going to overthrow your father? And she's just like, I mean, they don't really have the power to do that, but I feel like if they talk to him well enough, he might just like redact himself. So there's no reason to really care. You're worried for nothing, basically. You just said so yourself. Your father cannot be overthrown. All you're saying is that your father is a fucking pussy who takes whatever people say to him with a massive, like way too much reason to believes them, and then follows through with that. Like, your dad just doesn't have a fucking backbone. He's a spineless freak. And you're making that your concern. Okay. That's just me. Feel like that's something. Like, the politics in this book and the business speak, it makes no sense, because they'll say something politically charged and it's like, okay, I kind of get that, but like at the same time that doesn't really have a whole lot of stakes like you think it does. Like, it sounds like it has a lot of stakes, but when you actually like look at it, it doesn't really do much. Again, that's what I've noticed throughout this book. Like, they'll put in a bunch of political speak, but like once you like, you know, reread it and summarize it, it's like, no, that actually isn't that serious. You're kind of being over dramatic. But that is just me. I'm not going to get too much into that. Now, he's talking with Iris at breakfast because, you know, they want to talk a little bit. And it's something. It's definitely something. I forgot to mention, after the announcement, two Halloween envoys come in and they're just like, listen, Christmas, you've done way too much shit. You're basically taking over all the holidays and we can't have that. So we're going to send our prince over to come and like take over with Iris so that like, he can fall in love with Iris and get married to her instead. And you know, Santa Claus is like, bet, y'all can come. I want to see you try. Let's do it. So they do bring them in. And so before they go and like, you know, do all of that, they have another party where we get to see the Halloween prince. And might I just say, it's well, it's definitely something. I'm not gonna lie. Hex, my issue with him, I don't feel like he has much of a personality. I mean, he's sassy and sarcastic, but I feel like that's his only like main characteristics. Like, you don't really get to know much more about him besides later on, and it's like, even then it's like, okay, that's not really a whole lot though. Like, I do want to learn more about him. Like, when it comes to the Halloween prince, he just seems like kind of a bland character, and it's just like, I don't know, like, I feel like more could have been done with him, but it's like not interesting enough. Like, I don't feel myself being compelled by him in comparison to like maybe Iris. Like, Iris is genuinely a character I want to like see have her own book, because she genuinely seems very interesting to me. But like, Hex is like not really much going on for him, I won't even lie, because even in his description, like describing him, he is described as, I'm trying to find it because it is genuinely insane how he's described. When Cole sees him, and this is like, again, if you couldn't figure it out, the Halloween prince is the guy that Cole kissed 2 years ago at the bar. Yeah, I feel like it's kind of obvious. But, you know, just in case you didn't know, yeah, he's the one that kissed Cole at the bar. But when Cole sees him again, he describes Hex in, like, such a weird way. Like, the way he described Hex physically, because that's the Halloween Prince's name, is, it made me weirdly irate. Like, when I read the line, I was like, out of any other way to describe this man, you picked that? Like, not just, like, and maybe that's how the, you know, author thought that that's how the character would say it, which, I mean, I get that, but at the same time, you didn't, like, cringe a little bit when you had to write the line? Because the line goes, and I'm being so dead ass, I'm gonna put it on the screen. Being this insanely attractive mashup of a pirate and a vampire, and Loki from that one scene in Thor Ragnarok when he's in New York, and first had me realizing that I was in fact deeply attracted to dudes in addition to girls. You see what I mean about the whole millennial writing style? Like, you see where I was getting at about that? Because that's, yeah, that's an interesting way. And before, and I'm going to tell you this right now, the minute that the Halloween Prince was introduced, the first thought that came into my head was, are they going to lump in Dia de los Muertos, or the Day of the Dead, with Halloween, because so many white people just love to lump in Dia de los Muertos as like a Mexican Halloween? You'll get your answer to that in just a few minutes. Now, Cole is deciding whether or not he should, like, go to Hex and, like, ask him something because, you know, were you the guy that I kissed when I was drunk as hell? But anyway, he decides to just go ahead and go for it. So he, like, confronts him, and he's all like, you know, like, hey, I know you. We kissed at a bar, like, almost 2 years ago. And he was like, oh, yeah, we did. And he's just like, well, did that mean anything to you? Because throughout the book, Cole, before he sees the prince again, he's, like, always talking about, like, how he met this guy at the bar, you know, when he was drunk as hell, and how that conversation really stuck with him, and he wished that he could see him again. And now he's seeing him again, and he just wants to know, like, did what happened to him mean just as much to him as it did to the Halloween Prince? And it's up for a toss at the beginning. And he's kind of like, did it really mean anything to you? And, like, Hex is like, I mean, I just kind of thought that I was just one of your dalliances. Dalliances? I don't know how to pronounce the word. That's what he says. And if you don't know what that means, casual, sexual, or romantic relationships. I never knew that word was a thing, and now I do, which I think is pretty interesting. But as he's, like, talking to him about this, you know, Hex reveals that, like, well, you don't need to apologize for that kiss because you weren't the one that initiated it. Which just sends this man on a fucking spiral, might I add. Like, this man just goes all the way down the rabbit hole once he hears that. And it's after the party, Chris and Cole and Iris are having a conversation during breakfast, and they kind of talk into the holidays. Another thing that kind of irks me about Cole's character is that he has such a surface level view of, like, the holidays, and more so I would say capitalism as a whole. Like, don't get me wrong, I definitely think capitalism has affected us a lot, because it has, it really, really has. But I never can really get down with, like, people who are like, we need to bring back communism, we need to bring back socialism, because I'm not gonna lie, it's never gonna, like, look good in a sense. Like, everyone is always like, we need to bring back bartering. What the fuck do you think capitalism is, my guy? It's bartering, just not with, like, a cow. With money, like, it's a tangible object, instead of, like, oh, you know, I'll give you my sheep for, like, 10 eggs. You say, oh, I'll give you, like, 1 coin for 1 egg. Like, capitalism is just built off of bartering in a more explicit way, a much more corrupt way. I won't lie to you. But I've never just been down for the whole, oh, like, let's do communism, let's do socialism. Like, I've never been down for that. But I do feel like capitalism could technically be better if it wasn't for the fact that we don't, like, get on capitalist ass. Just saying, if the government actually did its job and got on these capitalists' ass and taxed them like they're supposed to, maybe, just maybe, things would be a little bit better. Just a little bit. I'm just saying, like, America is just a fucking crazy fucking thing. During this deep conversation, you know, I agreed with Iris's point of view, because Iris actually has a more well-rounded worldview of how to view, like, the holidays. So Iris uses her magic to make a crass-like, what is it, a crass-lice? I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's called a crass-lice. It's this very, like, beautiful geometric pattern egg that comes from more, like, European, like, I think, what, Eastern European countries? No. Yeah, Eastern European countries. More over there. They use, like, a bunch of wax, and they look very beautiful. They're very beautiful, I have to add. Like, this is what they look like. They're very pretty. And she talks about how Easter has, in a sense, become very cheap now. How it's all about easiness and speed, prioritizing over, like, tradition or beauty or things that take time, because time is money and they want to save as much money as possible, which I actually kind of get her on that. Like, yes, not about completely dismantling the holiday, but, like, at the very least trying to look back at where your original roots were from, and in a sense going back for that, how she wants to go back to, like, beauty and tradition over this emphasis on, you know, cheapness. And then Cole opens up his mouth and he lost me completely. Now, the way Cole goes about things is more like we just have to dismantle everything altogether, or else it's never going to work out. And I feel like that's kind of his way of, like, going surface level. And on the one hand, I would be on it if it was like, okay, that's just his worldview, but then he, like, learns it differently, or maybe he learns the history. But it's like, no, we find out later on in the book that he does know Christmas history, and he does know the origins of Christmas, and how Christmas was a holiday invented to help people endure the winter months and to try and keep going no matter how cold it was, no matter how dreary it could get, you know, to just keep it going. But no, he's like, and I guess I understand where it's coming from, but it's like, you do realize that each one of these holidays, like every single holiday, was in a sense invented to help people endure things, or to celebrate being able to endure those things. Like, look at any Jewish holiday. Almost every single one of their holidays is about enduring some sort of genocide. It's actually kind of concerning, honestly. Free Palestine, though. I don't fuck with what the Israelis are doing. But the Jews, they're okay. But yeah, every, like, holiday, in a sense, was made to show a way of enduring something, or to celebrate that endurance. And he seems to just, like, completely glaze over this. And it would be completely different if he, like, learns this by himself. Like, this was his own thing that he learned later on. Like, maybe my worldview just was a little closed-minded, a little surface level. But now it's a little bit more well-rounded. It's like, no, he only learned this by talking to his love interest. Even though his friend, who just talked to him, basically said the exact same thing in a different way, he didn't listen to her. But he's willing to listen to the guy he's about to dig down later in the book. Oh yeah, there's a spoiler for you. He's about to dig this man down at the end of the book. I'm telling you this right now. He's going to dig him down. But that's all I'm getting into. And it's like, some of the examples that he uses don't make any sense. Like, he talks about how a lot of his roommates loathe going to Christmas with their families because their families are so stressful and toxic and mean and awful, and that they hope that they just get a good gift to deal with all the stress. And it's like, I mean, I get where you're coming from, but, like, that's not a capitalism issue. That doesn't come from the commodification of Christmas. That's just people having general family issues. That's a societal issue. Sure, capitalism can go hand in hand with societal issues, but, like, that's not a societal issue that capitalism can really fix. You know, if your aunt is homophobic and you're about to bring your girlfriend over for Christmas dinner, no amount of destabilizing capitalism is going to stop your aunt from being homophobic. She's going to be homophobic regardless, babe. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you that. Like, I don't know what you're expecting for me to get out of that metaphor, because that metaphor doesn't make any sense. Like, at that point, you just don't go to your family for Christmas. He uses these examples all the time. He also used an example of a kid asking, you know, for his dad to come back home because his dad left him. How is decommodifying Christmas going to stop that, Cole? That's a skill issue. He left his kid. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But it's really, really, like, just out there. And during this whole conversation, Iris was like painting his nails, and she painted them orange and black because she realized that he has a crush on Hex. I'm not trying to be that person, but like, this man has to go out in public and pretend that he's like trying to like go for you, and you're like not helping the situation by painting his nails that color. If anyone takes a photo of that, it's game fucking over. Another thing that pissed me off in this book is the advertising. Now, the way that the author advertised this book versus like the thing that got me to read it is much different. Like, she is more using like trendy audios from like TV shows that kind of help you understand like the character dynamics, not really getting into the plot of it all. Sometimes she does, sometimes she doesn't.
Wait, you think I didn't think of that? Of course I thought of that.
The other video I saw, even they were a bit right in their analysis, but also definitely left some things out. It was definitely more for a comedic sake.
What I thought this book was going to be about. I'm a Christmas boy. I'm a Halloween boy. Kiss, 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 kiss. What this book ended up being about. Capitalism is ruining the Christmas spirit. Neglectful parents, abusive parents, parental abandonment, trauma, grief, the feeling of isolation, the dehumanization of your private life being paraded around by the media, every aspect of your life being controlled and manipulated before you're even able to grow into yourself. Abuse and trauma, abuse and trauma, abuse and trauma. Capitalism is bad.
But at the same time, I genuinely have to say that the synopsis for the book also doesn't help it, because the synopsis of the book makes you think that this is like some sort of like rivals to lovers things, and it's like, they're not rivals. In fact, the minute that Cole laid eyes on Hex, he fell in love with him. He says so himself. So, and Hex doesn't even like try to like make their rival, like they don't even like act as if they're having some sort of rivalry, like they're trying to vie for this girl's hand. Like, no, it's like so obvious that they want to fuck each other. They don't even try to pretend, not even in front of the cameras. In fact, they do a really bad job at it, like horrific job, honestly. I can't believe, like, it's a good thing that Cole doesn't like to look at like paparazzi stuff, because if he did, I definitely feel like there would be a few articles like, is the Prince of Christmas trying to fuck the Prince of Halloween? With these pictures, it sure looks like it. Because they weren't trying to hide anything. In the next event, it's a sleighing competition, like a sleigh race. And before you ask, no, they don't fly the reindeers. But I can honestly get behind that, because it is said that Iris participated last year and fell off her fucking sleigh and landed in a tree. And those were the grounded ones, so I cannot even imagine what would happen if those things were flying. So, hey, I get it, it's a safety hazard. I'm not going to get on their case about this. But you would really think that at some point in the book, there would be like a romantic moment where Cole takes Hex on like a flying sleigh ride through North Pole City. If you thought that was going to happen in this book, I'm sorry to tell you, but it doesn't happen. I'm very unfortunate to tell you that doesn't happen. But I also bought these sleigh bells. You know, so that makes it a little bit better. Now, at the event, you know, Hex isn't really down for participating in it. And guess what? A reporter kind of asks him, because Hex is like, oh yeah, I don't really like cold weather or cold seasons. And the reporter, being confused, he's like, but Halloween is literally on the end of October, which is normally quite cold. So what the hell are you talking about? And Hex reveals that he lives in Mexico, and that his mother, and like normally he's in Mexico with his mother to help with Dia de los Muertos. You see how I knew they were gonna do that? You see how I knew, even before I wrote the script for this video, even before I finished the book, the minute that they introduced the Halloween Prince, I knew this. And you would think that like the prince would be like half Mexican or something, but like, we saw the king and queen of Halloween. His daddy's white. If his mother is Mexican, because he does say that his mother helps his uncle, his older uncle. So it would be as if maybe they're Mexican, like maybe his mother is Mexican, but like She is a light-skinned Mexican, because they do say that that woman is white. They say that she is pale white. So she is one white-ass Mexican. And so she gave birth to like this biracial white-ass Mexican baby. And on the one hand, I kind of understand it. But on the other hand, I kind of don't. Because this man is so white that they described him as a white man. Multiple fucking times. Like, they just described him as a white man. A British white man at that. Like, that's craziness right there. I'm honestly a little concerned. And I kind of wish if they were going to, like, make it where his mother is, like, a part of Dia de los Muertos and just married into Halloween, that maybe, possibly, he would have some sort of, like, you know, like the candy skulls that they make for Dia de los Muertos? That they would, like, paint his face like that, or he would have something that shows that going on. But, like, no. Why get creative with the character designs? It's a book. And we're not supposed to get creative with the character designs in a book. Why would we do that? That's not fun. But anyway, Hex joins Cole in the sleigh. And Hex is still kind of hesitant about, like, getting close to Cole. Not for long, though. They immediately start a relationship with each other after this situation. Anyway, they start slaying. And Cole, after telling this man multiple times, hey, I'm going to make sure you don't fall out that sleigh. You're not going to fall out that sleigh. He falls out the fucking sleigh into a fucking depression. Like, how did you fucking manage this? Like, genuinely speaking. Anyway, he loses the race and they go into the library and they have a romantic moment. You see how crazy that is? Like, they immediately start a romantic relationship with each other. There's no, like, build up to it at all. We go from the Halloween envoys come in and they say, like, hey, we're tired of this. We want you to, like, stop, like, monopolizing all the holidays. And then the next day, the prince comes in with his parents. Then the following day, they have an event. So keep in mind, again, this is a day difference. The Halloween prince comes to Christmas to celebrate it for the whole wedding thing. And then the following day, they go for the sleigh riding. And after the sleigh riding, because again, this is like just later on in the night, he then makes out with Cole at the back of the library after having like another deep conversation. A day. All it took was a day. A day. That's all it took. But during this conversation, Cole learns that, like, in a sense, Hex is like a political prisoner. Like, he's only there to make sure that, because if he leaves, then Santa is going to blackmail, like, the Halloween and all the fall holidays, because Halloween and the fall holidays all have, like, this collective where they pool in joy that they get from their holidays and, like, use it together. Like, it's a little community pool, basically. And Cole really likes that idea. He's like, well, damn, I don't know why Christmas doesn't do that with the other winter holidays. And he's like, I don't really know, man, but maybe you could ask your dad. Turns out that Santa has blackmail on them. And you want to know what the blackmail is? Basically, a while back ago, and by a while back ago, I mean like 4 to 3 years ago, maybe even 2, because it's probably 3 to 4 years though. Halloween tried to commit an alliance with like Christmas, but it fell through because the autumn holidays heard about it and they were all like, we don't want to fucking do that. We're in the fall, they're in the winter, let's leave it at that. And so they decided to just like bow out of it. But he still kind of held on to that as blackmail, which, I mean, I guess that can work as blackmail, but I don't really know if that's like the best example of blackmail. Like, I mean, I just don't feel like it has enough stakes for it. Like, I mean, if you release that to the public, it's like, oh, 4 years ago, Halloween wanted to confide with Christmas. And then they decided they didn't want to. That's not something that's really out there. Like, let's be completely honest with ourselves, but I guess it's like a very big deal in this universe. So Cole goes over to confront his daddy, and he's just like, Dad, you can't be holding him prisoner like this. And his dad's like, why do you care? Are you a homosexual? He doesn't say that part, but it's like, he's kind of like, why do you care? Genuinely, why do you give a fuck? But Cole decides to play it cool and act as if he's interested in, like, you know, being more into his holiday, which technically he is. He does want to help his holiday. He's just very, I don't know how to describe it. He's just very offish about it. So his dad is like, well, kid, I've always wanted you to take an interest in your holiday. So he brings out this manila folder, and you know it's serious when they bring out a manila folder. And he hands it to his son, and his son looks at it, and he sees Thanksgiving, Yuletide, New Year's, and he's kind of like, what's this? And he sees all like these joy meters, and he's like, so Santa explains, he's like, yeah, so some of these holidays were really struggling to bring in joy. So I asked them to basically become a part of a collective. And basically, I take a little bit of their joy in exchange for our Christmas joy to keep their holidays going. And, you know, and I kind of get it. Cole is very appalled by this, and I understand that, because it's like, yeah, the only reason that there's so much joy in Christmas right now is because he is siphoning it from, like, other winter holidays. But on the other hand, we're talking about holidays like Thanksgiving and Yuletide. Like, I'm not trying to be that bitch, but harping on Thanksgiving, how much joy is Thanksgiving really giving the world? Is this like a combination of both Canadian Thanksgiving and American Thanksgiving? Do the other holidays kind of tend to avoid Thanksgiving because of the history? Like, that's just what I'm saying. Like, I don't really see a whole lot of people, like, genuinely excited for Thanksgiving, because most people loathe going to Thanksgiving because of family. So I'm not shocked. And also, Yuletide is very interesting, because Yuletide is technically the origins of Christmas. Like, the Christmas trees we put up, the wreaths, all of that all came from Yuletide, the pagan holiday. I don't know if you know that, but the Christian church basically took all this stuff that, like, the pagans did, and then they just rebranded it as, like, it's Christ's birthday. I mean, we technically don't know when he was born, but, like, let's just hope that it was December 25th. That's basically how we got Christmas. And Yuletide has been kind of decreasing because, again, it's technically celebrated, but in accordance to, like, that. Again, it's very hard to explain in a sense. It's just, think of Yule as, like, the older sister, and think of Christmas as, like, the younger sister that just stole all her clothes and rebranded herself as being like her sister. That's the best way I can really describe it. And even then, Yuletide is not that popular. I'm sorry to be that person, but it's true. And Yuletide is, like, only 2 days before Christmas, technically. So even then, they're basically fucking cousins. Y'all might as well just merge together anyway. Not to be that person, but it's true. And it's rather, yeah, it's rather that. I don't really know how else to really describe it, because, yeah, I just, it's very hard to, and I don't really like the whole making Santa like this sleazy, corporate-driven, capitalistic dirtbag. Like, he acts so mean and controlling. And again, Cole has said previously in the book that his mother might have gotten overwhelmed with being Mrs. Claus. Like, he specifically says that the responsibilities of Mrs. Claus became too much for her. And seeing how much of a control freak his dad is, seeing how his dad is, like, forcing him to go into grad school for global affairs, yeah, I can kind of see why maybe she might have left the guy. He definitely seems to be a bit of a controlling asshole. I honestly don't know if I can blame her fully. It doesn't really, like, make me feel super, super bad about it. Into the book, we get into ice skating, where this is where I talked about where I'm glad that Cole doesn't really read the stories that the paparazzi publishes, because with this, I feel like there would have been a lot of, like, is he gay? Because at the ice skating event, Cole is on the rink, and of course, you know, being, like, a part of the Frost family, technically by genetics, he's very good at ice skating, just like his brother Chris is. And Iris is also a pretty good skater. But Hex, living in Mexico and all, he doesn't really know how to skate. So what does he do? He holds this man by the fucking hips. By the hips, might I add. Holding this man by the hips. And is like gliding him through the ice. Just like helping him and holding him. And this is a public event, just so you know. Like, not only is paparazzi there, but like this is taking place in like the city, where a bunch of other people are there watching them on the ice. Now, the people aren't on the ice with them because, that would kind of mess up the photo shoots. But still, people are there watching this, seeing this. And we're not really caring about that. We're not caring about that one fucking bit, I guess. And, his dad, he comes up to him and is like, hey, you're being a homosexual in public. Stop being a homosexual in public. And again, I don't want to get on this guy's side, but I kind of get it. Because, again, you're making it very obvious to the public that, like, you do not fuck with that bitch. Like, you are dead ass holding this man's waist in public. Like, that is so weirdly romantic. Like, you can't even, like, try and, like, defend that. That looks fucking gay. I'm saying this so homophobic, but I'm a lesbian, I promise. But, like, that shit is so fucking gay. And he's like, listen, I want you to go over there and skate with Iris because, again, the public is supposed to be thinking that you two are trying to, like, get together, or that she's trying to get together with Halloween, not you're getting together with Halloween. So get it fucking together right now. Also, they say in this that Chris was ice skating with Iris and that they were very happy and smiling and having a lot of fun, and it was really romantic looking, and it almost looked like they were like having feelings for each other. But that's not really going to matter later on. Believe me, we'll get into that. But it gets very questionable, I won't even lie. And I just want to say another thing that pissed me off, and this is a very tiny thing that pissed me off. Mariah Carey was not mentioned in this book. Mariah Carey was not mentioned in this book whatsoever, and it pissed me off. During the ice skating scene, it is said that the song that was playing around the ice skating rink was, and I quote, I'm so dead ass serious, "All I Want for Christmas Is You," but not by Mariah Carey. By Michael Bublé. They had fucking Michael Bublé singing all. I didn't even know that he made a Christmas cover for this. Did anyone else know that he did an All I Want for Christmas Is You cover? I didn't know he did that. If you were to look up Michael Bublé on TikTok right now, I dead ass know for sure it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas is the first song that's going to show up. I don't know what wackadoodle world Sarah is living in that she fucking thinks that Michael Bublé's version is like better than Mariah Carey's. Like, on the one hand, I want to say it's a copyright thing, but I don't think it's a copyright thing, because it can't be a copyright thing just to say the name of a song. It would have to be using the actual lyrics. So I don't understand why she refuses to say this. And it's like, after you like mention Thor Ragnarok and everything else, we're drawing the line at Mariah. Like, this is Mariah Carey's whole brand. Like, what are we doing? Anyway, we have a spicy scene, and at the end he kind of joke, and this joke annoyed me too. He jokes that Cole, when he orgasms, that he squirts out ice. Sarah, aren't you like 30 years old? Not to be that person, but it's like, Sarah, aren't you like 30 years old? That's all I'm saying. Now, nothing really happens later on, but this is like what is going on a little bit later. Iris and Hex are taking a walk outside for like PR reasons, and Cole texts him like a whole sexy text about like, you're like my daddy and this, that, and the other. Sigmund Freud is rolling in his grave, and he specifically says that Hex is wearing dead ass fingerless gloves. This man is wearing fingerless gloves in the Arctic tundra. Okay. Uh, that's interesting. Now, this is where we kind of reach, like, nearing the end of the book. So we're almost there at the quarter-way mark. And Cole brings up, he's like, man, I don't really know. I want to start, like, a Christmas collective. Like, where we all, like, actually, like, you know, pool in our joy together. And, like, Hex is like, okay, but, like, why don't we see the public's opinion on it? So they sneak over to North Pole City, which is honestly a bust. I don't really know what the hell Cole thought he was thinking, because you have a bunch of citizens that have basically been indoctored with Christmas propaganda for years now. And a few of them are just like, oh yeah, I think that, like, the older Christmas Prince, Nicholas, is, like, really irresponsible, which is, like, I can't even blame them. Keep in mind that the general public does not know about the Nucoa incident. Only really the royal families know about it because, you know, his dad did a really good job at keeping it under wraps. Which I'm downright impressed with, how he was able to keep the economic collapse of an entire country under wraps, but he did it. And I'm honestly impressed with him by that. I can't even lie. It's actually genuinely impressive. Now, they decide to start this whole thing, and it's definitely something. They have another steamy scene, and a thing that pissed me off is, like, and this is very minor, I have noticed this a lot. I'm fine with, like, books where, like, there's a sex scene and, like, they're getting consent, but it's like, sometimes it's doing too much, because when you have so much tension building, I feel like there are subtler ways to have a character give consent than just having the character straight up be like, oh, do I have your consent? Do I have your written consent? Do I have this, that? Like, is this a legal proceeding, or are we fucking? I'm sorry to be that person, but, like, that's just how it gets for me. Sometimes it's just very jarring, where it's like the character is like, I'm gonna take your pants off now. Like, after all that tension, after all that kissing, after all that shirt taking offing, you gotta ask me to take off my pants? Like, are we dead ass? I'm sorry, I don't, like, it's different if you were like, oh, am I hurting you or something? But, like, no, that's not what really happened. Now, in this scene, it was mentioned earlier that Hex had a sister, an older sister, her name was Raven, that died going on 3 years ago. Now, he reveals to Cole in the middle of this scene that he had a relationship with someone who didn't really, like, give him what he gave back sexually. Like, he would give to him, but he wouldn't give back. And during this conversation, he basically reveals, and this is kind of crazy, I'm not even gonna lie, that the guy that he was with was his sister's boyfriend. And more specifically, when they had sex after his sister's funeral. It's kind of wild. They don't say specifically how after it was. Like, they don't say if it was like, oh, was this like immediately after, like you guys did it in the bathroom? Was this a repass? Was this like a day after the funeral? But, like, how they're saying it, it seems like this happened the day of the funeral. Which is fucking insane. And Cole tries to comfort him with this whole, like, oh, well, you were grieving and he was grieving. You just wanted some comfort. And it's like, no. That's a really questionable thing to do. After your sister's been buried, like, that's really something, definitely something crazy, something. Like, let's not comfort him about that. That's kind of crazy. But I feel like that's very representative. Anyway, they start to fuck. And anytime Sarah writes a sex scene about these two, she starts talking about it in some sort of, like, weird religious content. I'm not even lying. She starts talking about, like, sinning and repenting and praying. And it's like, girl, is this the religious celebration of Christmas? Like, not to be that person, but it's like, damn. Now, getting back to Cole, there is a dinner happening for one of, like, there's a person, I forgot who it was for, but there is someone in one of the houses and it's their birthday and they're having, like, this big dinner, but it's, like, very stuck up-ish and everyone is, like, all very super serious about it. So Cole decides to, like, make it a little fun by having a movie marathon that he heard one of the people at his place is having. And not to be like conservative or to sound conservative, but as they're picking the movie, he's like, you know, there's a lot of Christmas movies. Should we do something like classic, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? And Iris steps in and she's all like, ugh, in a scene where his father is literally like, oh, that's man's work. No, get that misogynistic shit out of here. And Iris, I love you down bad, but it is not that fucking serious. I'm sorry, but that was a movie that was released in like what, the 1960s, the 70s. I'm not trying to like defend it, but like, let's be honest here. There's unfortunately gonna be that. And do you want to know what movie that they landed on? Out of all of like the iconic Christmas holiday movies that there are out there, do you want to know what movie that they landed on to do a Christmas marathon for? The Christmas Prince. And I know some of you are like, the Christmas Prince. And I know some of you are like, the Christmas Prince. Because you know, I'm talking about the Christmas Prince, the Hallmark movie. That's what he put on. That's the movie that he put on for everyone to watch. I didn't even know that there were enough Christmas Prince movies that they could make like a whole movie marathon about it. But there is. To the chagrin of the populace, there is like more than one. I think there's like four or three. But it's a decent amount. I'm still shocked by that. But on the one hand, it's like, well, he is technically a Prince of Christmas, so I guess it's a little comedic. But that pissed me off for real. I can't even lie about that. And I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. But we gotta like, I want to try and summarize the rest, because really after this, it's like not even that hard to summarize completely. Now, Cole has his brother make letters because his brother is like really good at writing. Just so you know, all the characters, like the four that we meet, are basically all into the arts, except for Hex. Hex doesn't really share what his hobbies are. That's something that I really noticed about him, which I think also couldn't get me attached to his character, because Iris likes art. Cole expresses a love for theater and acting, and his brother Chris shows that he likes writing and even talks about wanting to like just live in the woods and write a book. So then you get the Hex and he's just like, I don't really know. And it's like, I mean, okay, I guess. I kind of wish we got to see more of like what he has interest in, but I guess it's nothing. I guess it's nothing. Now, they write all these letters, they send them out to all the winter holidays to like get something out of it. And throughout the book, Hex has been telling Cole not to put his responsibilities over his dad. Like, constantly. Anyway, Santa obviously figures out that they were trying to do this, and he gets like super mad at his like everybody, basically, like both of his sons. He's just like, how dare you do this? You better cancel those invitations right now. I don't want to see them anywhere near our property when you two get married. And he basically tells Ren, oh, go tell the Prince of Halloween that he needs to get the fuck out of my house. And it gets very serious. It gets to the point where Santa almost hits Chris. So, you know, back when I said before that he could be a wife beater, it might not be too off topic to begin with. But after all of that happened, after all that silliness, Cole goes over to tell Hex about what happened, and Hex starts going in on him. And this is basically like our low point, basically, but not for long, because it's never for long in this book. And he's like, I told you not to put your responsibilities over me. I don't know why you would do that. And then Cole's just like, oh, did you not think that this was going to last? And he was just like, what did you think? I'm the Prince of Halloween and you're the Prince of Christmas. This was never going to last. And they start arguing up the wazoo. And so he admits why he was there to see Cole. And I'm not going to lie, it was a dumb reason. It was like, I think a year or two after his sister's like car crash. And he was like so upset because she got into the car accident. Because, again, Raven was the one who wanted to start the whole correlation with, like, Christmas. But then she got into a car crash after, like, the thing happened. Which almost makes me wonder if Santa set that up. But it doesn't seem so. It just seems like a freak coincidence. So, he goes over to the bar that he knows that, like, Cole frequents. And Cole was there drunk as hell. And he's just like, I really wanted to lay it into you. I wanted to curse you out. I wanted to say all these awful things about you. But I saw how pathetic you were and I fell in love with you. He didn't say that specifically, but like with how he said it, I was like, you saw how pathetic this fucking man was and felt bad. because that's kind of how it looked when you read it. It's like, oh, you were fucking pathetic. And, you know, it gets really heated, and so he leaves, and then, you know, Cole is, like, so upset. He's so saddened by this news. I honestly can't really feel that bad, though. Anyway, as Cole is, like, getting over this and having to, like, reconcile with the fact that he's gonna have to get married, he realizes that his father is just bluffing, because if his father were to expose that blackmail on, like, Halloween, it would only look bad on him, because it's like, why were you keeping tabs on that to begin with? As if you wanted to blackmail people. That doesn't look that great. So he, you know, plays his father's bluff. And it works, surprisingly. Like, very surprisingly. Like, it's the day of the wedding. It's this whole Nutcracker theme. He's getting ready. They never, like, revoke the invitations for, like, the winter holidays to come. So he goes over to his dad to, like, talk to him, and Ren basically is like, oh yeah, I made sure to send those letters. Wink, wink. And we have another conversation again when it comes to his mother. And, you know, he asks, he's just like, oh crap, I never realized that my mother would come to my wedding day. Why the fuck wouldn't your father invite your mother to your wedding day? Like, even if it was like a fake wedding, even if you guys didn't have actual feelings for each other, like, of course your mother would come for your wedding. She probably heard the news that you were married, and Ren is just like, well, with how busy things have been, her invitation probably got lost in the mail. Wink, wink. Ren, how much do you get paid to be so involved in these people's personal lives? Like, I'm just asking. Because that seems like to be overstepping your boundaries a bit. Like, not to be that person, but like, do your job. Like, why are you so involved in that, genuinely? Like, what did this woman do, genuinely, that makes it where they didn't even want to send an invitation to her kid's wedding? I really hope we get more explanation on his mother, because I want to know what this woman did that would cause such a reaction. Because I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all. Now, to get into the end of the book, because, of course, we got to get to the end at some point. They have this whole wedding thing. They go over into a separate room where all the winter holidays meet up. He has, like, a heart-to-heart with his dad that lasts for, like, 2 paragraphs. And his dad is just like, you know, I never really realized how bad I got. You know, when you guys were scared that I was going to hit you, I realized that you guys thought that I was going to hit you. Almost as if I raised my fist to fucking box you. But it really made me rethink on things. And so the winter holidays come in. You would think that there would be more of a debate about this. Like, I mean, my holiday is about to go extinct. So I would really need a lot of joy to, like, keep myself afloat and stop my people from, like, basically dying. But it's like, no, they were just like, he just gets up there and he's just like, I want to start a winter coalition where we all basically make a pool of money or joy and share it amongst each other. And then just one winter holiday speaks up. They don't even specify what holiday it was. They're just like, a winter holiday. And the winter holiday is just like, that seems tight. And then everything's solved. They cancel the wedding. It's Christmas Day. Well, it's not Christmas Day. They cancel the wedding. So now it's just a big Christmas Eve party. And he's just like, I really wish that Hex was here so that I could fuck him in the ass. And guess who's at the Halloween party? Guess who's at the Halloween party ready to get fucked in the ass? I shouldn't say that, but, like, guess who's there? Hex. He came there earlier, and, like, Chris is, like, pretty pissed off because he's like, you hurt my older brother. And it's like, I mean, I guess no reason to get like that, though. And, you know, they talk to each other, they kiss, they fall in love. I just want to say that there was a scene before this happened where Iris is, like, getting on his case about it, and he's just like, cause he broke my fucking heart, Iris. You knew that nigga for, like, less than 2 weeks. 2 weeks at maximum. A little over a week at most. That, like, that's all I'm saying. Like, you barely knew the man for 2 weeks and you're already in love with him, like, that bad. That was a fling. Technically speaking, that is what is considered a fling. But anyway, he goes to fuck him in the ass. I'm not even lying. We literally end the... Well, we don't end it on that note, but, like, 15 pages before the book ends, they fuck each other. They just like a Love and Light video. I'm not even gonna lie. They're fucking each other, like, right there. Anyway, it's Christmas Day, and he's just like, oh my god, I didn't get you guys anything. Even though I literally have, like, fucking Christmas powers that can make me, like, make anything, I can't get you guys anything. I'm such a dork, such a this, that, whatever. And Iris is just like, it's chill, we're cool. It's not as if you can literally make Christmas gifts with your fucking magic. But, hey, it's chill, it's cool. We don't really give a fuck. And he has this whole scene with Hex. And keep in mind, this is right in front of Iris, where he's just like, I need you. And he's just like, you need to sleep. And he's like, I love you. And he's just like, I love you too. And Iris is just there like, and I can't even blame that. Gay men are fucking disgusting. But nearing the end of the book, you know, he's about to go do his responsibilities, and Hex makes a interesting thing where he says that Chris seemed to have confessed his feelings to Iris, but we don't really know how that went about because Iris isn't saying anything and Hex isn't saying anything, just kind of leaving it up in the air. And so the book ends with Cole going to do Christmas duties and talking about how much he loves Hex. And that is the Nightmare Before Kissmas. It sure was a nightmare. I'm sorry to be like that, but I did kind of give it like 3 stars because while there were things I didn't like about the book, I do have to say that it was a readable book. Like, it's one of those books where you just like kind of want to keep reading just to see what else happens. So it was good in that front. I'm sorry if I rambled a bit too much here, but this book kind of did it for me. But if this book gets, well, if this video gets 30 likes, I will read the follow-up book, which is about Chris, the younger brother, falling in love with a leprechaun. That's not me joking. That's the actual synopsis. A leprechaun is stealing Christmas joy, and so Chris goes over to like Ireland to like confront the St. Patrick Prince about this. And then there's like this whole enemies to lovers thing about it, and it's undercover. Hopefully in that book we'll explore a little bit more about his mother, but I guess that's all for now. Like and subscribe, and thank you for watching. Bye bye.